I'm gonna say it. Shiva was definitely the tip of the iceberg. That was the game changer.
Oh my god! Boom!
End the recording. Stop the recording.
Welcome, Warriors of Light, to another episode of Free Company Chat, a podcast ran by me, Ryan, and my two friends, Kevin.
What's up?
And Chris.
Hey, how you doing?
Everything's edited by our good friend Adrian. We're here again to talk about Final Fantasy XIV, and today's subject is Shiva.
Realm Reborn Shiva. Shiva the Primal. There are many primals, but this one
You
like.
guys remember how early on in AR they actually introduced Giselle?
It wasn't that early.
It was like not 5-4. It's
It's a bit late. It's a bit late.
wasn't it like 2-4 or like?
It was either 2.4, 2.5.
Because wasn't Shiva 2-4?
No, she was 2.5. I had to Google this because I was
2.5?
trying to figure out when I started playing.
Well, didn't they introduce her in 2-4? I don't remember exactly when the patches were because I played this fucking 2 years ago and we didn't pay attention to the fucking patches.
Yeah.
Also, if I'm being honest, me and Chris skipped the cutscenes a lot
Dang.
That's
You guys skipped the
Realm Reborn.
cutscenes?
In Realm Reborn.
in Realm Reborn.
I think Realm Reborn is actually pretty good.
I stopped skipping when we
We got to
witnessed
have
the
sword.
fucking no. That's not when I stopped skipping. I stopped skipping when I witnessed the fucking murder at the Waking Sands. I was like, I'm engaged, and ever since then, I watched you all the whole thing. Why do you
everyone
think
got
you
taken
always
out.
made it to the objective before I did? I didn't really skip.
I stopped doing that after the end of base.
That's crazy. Because for me, when I very first started 14, was actually like ARR was the only thing that existed.
Yeah.
And I remember specifically, it was actually the Shiva fight itself that is what actually got me to play 14.
Imagine skipping ARR when it's the only thing out.
Right?
It makes no sense. But I also think
to be
ARR
fair-
gets like crap more, like gets more crap than it actually deserves because I
Oh, no,
think it's pretty
definitely.
solid.
Yeah, I mean,
and that's
if you compare it to the expansions where they had time and they didn't have to rush and they weren't in the hole, of course AR looks bad. But like if you look at AR as a remote, like as what it is from being from 1.0 and like the absolute trash fest that was 1.0, like it's a fucking engineering marvel that they were able to
It was a
pull it
freaking
out
miracle that
and then put something out that people would like after vilifying 14 as it had been.
Yeah, and they got that out quick too. It was like less than like a year and a half of development time, wasn't it?
Yeah, they got it done really fast. I think it was I think Yoshi said it was only like 2 years. They said
Yeah,
I think it was only like 2 years full of development time to make an MMO,
For
which is
an
crazy.
entire MMO, which is
Yeah. And not only did they make a good MMO, in my opinion, but like talking about AR's like design and everything like that. But it was even so captivating that it got me interested. And if you had asked me back in 2015, I would have told you I am not an MMO person. I am not someone who would enjoy MMOs at all. Because I actually tried an MMO before 14, where I tried. No, I did play RuneScape. I guess that counts too. But I played that when I was like a lot younger.
Yeah, everybody played RuneScape.
But I actually because I wanted to try MMOs. I wanted to like finally see why people were interested in it. So I ended up trying in 2014. Warlords of Draenor was the newest expansion for WoW.
Oh my god, you never told me this.
Yeah. I tried Warlords of Draenor because I enjoyed Warcraft 3. It was an
dirty
old
secret.
like this old computer game that I enjoyed a lot. It was when Warcraft was an RTS and not an MMO. And
Good old
then
days.
they were like, "Hey, look at this cool cutscene for Warlords of Draenor. It mirrored to be like exactly like Gromash's death scene from 3, but instead of dying, he gets saved by Garrosh, right?" And so, like, that's symbolic because it's his son saving him from his twisted path and all that stuff. And I was like, dude, that's really cool. And my friends really like WoW. So I was like, you know what? I'll finally give an MMO a try. Like, I'll actually finally play one. It did not hook me at all. It was bad. I did not have fun. Like, the grinding was annoying. The barrack system was tedious, and I was just like, "Yup, MMOs are not for me." I was like, "There's no way I'm playing an MMO ever again in my life." And then you fast forward like the 4 months. I think it was between Draenor's release and then when I finally saw the Shiva fight in ARR. And I was watching it and I was just like, yeah, whatever, it's an MMO fight. Because I didn't really understand the mechanics that was happening in front of me. Like, it was just all like crazy random things as you push buttons, you know? How every video game looks when you don't understand what's going on.
Yeah.
And so I was like, yeah, whatever, just whatever. But it wasn't until the phase transition happened, when they killed all the ads, and then she freezes everybody in place. And then she circles.
Steps on you.
Yeah, I'll say, oh, dude, the steppy? Anyway.
Steppy.
Yeah, like, that was the exact moment I was like, I gotta try this shit out. Because, like, the music, the huge orchestral and choir stop. You just hear the wind, the ice is piled up, everyone's frozen solid. She circles the arena, and then she does the foot stomp onto a player, and then just everything shatters as the rock music plays in, dude. I was hooked.
So good.
Yeah, I was hooked. I was like, I didn't know MMOs could be that cool. I was like, I gotta give this shit a try.
You imagine you're just pressing buttons. That's all MMOs are, pushing buttons.
Any game ever.
Pushing buttons.
But no, like the presentation of that entire fight is what hooked me. And ever since then, because back in 2015, giving this game finally a try, just like I've been hooked ever since. Like I've been playing 15 a bit off and on. Like I played through all of ARR and Heaven's Ward, and I took a break for Stormblood and then came back for Shadowbringers. And it was all because of this fight specifically, was the Shiva fight. Because this fight was just so presented so well with great music that it really made me want to give it a try, to understand what was going on. And I do not regret it, man. Holy shit, what a journey this shit's been.
So wait, did you join Realm Reborn by yourself?
I had 2 friends that joined with me.
Okay.
Yeah, I had 2 friends that joined with me, and that's one of the reasons why I also kind of took a break in Stormblood, was because they had already dropped off of Final Fantasy XIV at that point. And so I had really no one else to play with, and so I was just like, yeah, I played a little bit of Heaven's Ward without them, but then, like, when you're playing by yourself, like...
Yeah, MMOs fall off really hard when you're
Yeah, I totally understand that, because like I played back in like 2015 by myself. And I mean, the game was fun and interesting and all, but it's like the game was not as big as it is now, for sure. And like queue times were crazy like back then.
Yeah, queue times were nuts.
Like, I remember being in queue like one time for like an hour and a half.
Yeah,
and that was like the norm.
Yeah, it was because of how queues were done back then. Yeah. If I remember correctly, the queues weren't done like on a data center.
It was per world basis.
Yeah, it was based on the world you were in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was it was definitely a struggle as a DPS for sure.
Yeah, like even way back then, just to like catch up on my characters and like my other classes as a DPS player, I was just like, because I mained monk back in ARR, and like you would just queue up for whatever you needed to do, whether it be the dungeon or trial fight you needed to do, and then you would just go out into Korthus and you would just farm fates for the next like 40 minutes until your queue finally popped.
Fates and leave quests. I remember doing a crap ton of leave quests back when I played in ARR.
Yeah, those were really helpful too to gain the experience.
Man, that experience sounds like shit. Good thing I wasn't around during that time.
Oh, yeah, no. The amount of experience they give out now is so generous.
Yeah, fucking 14 boomers.
All right.
I mean, but it's like it's this old stuff though that matters and is important though. Like going to Shiva, not only is this fight cool in presentation and everything like that, but like so many mechanics that are even used later and even into Shadowbringers started in this fight.
Yeah,
I'm gonna be honest. I think 14 in 14 at least, Shiva is like when you actually experience what the game is about.
Yeah,
I'm gonna be honest.
I mean, you could argue that the Titan fight was kind of the intro.
It's a taste. It's a taste.
Yeah,
but 14's a drink. Shiva's a drink.
Shiva is definitely a whole aesthetic,
and it's so cool.
That arena is so cool. Not pun unintended.
No, my pun's intended.
All right.
Just you go in there, ice everywhere. Shiva doesn't even like you. She doesn't even want you there. She's giving you the cold shoulder, and just she's piercing in with those icy stare of hers, dude. And it's over. You got fighter, and it's just like, and then like I said, she introduces so many good mechanics into the game, and it all started from her fight, and like.
Yep.
Everything raining down from the permafrost where it creates the ice on the floor, and so you have to skate around trying to get into position for everything. And then she also introduces the icicle patterns where it creates the overlapping Venn diagrams that you have to avoid. I'll say every fight since then has also started doing the Venn diagram stuff, whether they keep it as the icicles or they give it a new coat of paint, like, you know, with the folding fans in Tsukiyomi. Oh, but then not only that, but you see this even in Boja with, I think it's Delubrum's third or fourth boss. But then she introduces the weapon mechanics.
Annoying green guy.
That was a lady.
Yeah, the originates. I blocked that memory out.
Yep. Resistant weapon grind is gone from my memory.
I never have to go back in there again for any reason, anyways.
But yeah, they did change it up for that fight, but a lot of the sword, like the weapon mechanics, came from Shiva's, where the sword and shield would create the stun and tank swap stuff, the staff increasing damage, and then even creating the unsafe puddles and everything. I think Shiva's bow and arrow was... I think it was just a stack marker.
It was a stack on tank. If you don't stack on tank, the tank dies. And then you take the second one.
That's what it was. Yeah, I think that's
she
also...
shoots you twice.
Oh, she does shoot twice. You're right.
Yeah, you're supposed to stack with the tank twice.
Yeah, and that's really cool. And like all that originally started with Shiva introducing them.
Right. I am trying to go back and remember just getting there, right? Like you have to go through the extremes of, or not the extremes, but like the harder versions of Ifrit, Titan, and Garuda.
Mm-hmm.
And like they were like, well, Titan specifically, I was having the most trouble in, but like whatever, right? But when you get to Shiva, like the whole setup, like you're in this valley and you're standing, you don't really, there's the overworld music, right? But like you hear the winds of ice and snow, right? And you're just standing there and you're watching like your cloak like flow, and you're just waiting there for the trial, and you're like, this is going to be epic. You can feel it even before you step in. We
did that one together, didn't we?
I did it with you, and I did it with Elaine, and we struggled.
Yeah,
it was the first fight that I actually wiped fairly on.
Mm-hmm. Where we actually didn't know what to do.
Right. And like we had to figure it out, because like that's the first time you really experience mechanics that if you don't do it, you're fucked.
Mm-hmm. I think also at the time there was a wave of sprouts, not as big as what's going on now, but like we came along with a wave of sprouts during like when it was on Christmas sale.
Right.
So we were playing with a bunch of other new players as well. So that also helped.
But it was so hype, because I remember we're like getting like what 50% or something like that, and we're killing the ads, and we're like, oh man, we barely made it, and then suddenly you just see
Like, did
you
we
get
beat
frozen.
it?
You get frozen. You're like, oh shit, did we lose? Like, is this just like a way to show that we've lost, like epically?
Why aren't we going back to the start screen?
And then boom, second phase hits and wipe. But I can remember just the satisfaction of realizing, oh no, this is the second part. We made it.
Was that the first fight that had a second transition phase?
No.
It's not the first, but it definitely made a cinematic attempt to a phase transition.
Yeah.
Because like Titan technically has multiple phases you go through as well.
I guess, yeah.
But he just hops up and down. And then Garuda summons 2 ads for her phase as she destroys the pillars. But Shiva's
this is like the first break, like defined phase, I feel like.
Yeah, it's the most definitive like transition.
Yeah. I never felt as much satisfaction in clearing that. Like I felt a relief at being able to do it and like understanding what it is. Cause man, it was rough. Like I don't know if like it was now that I think about it now, I'm like, why did we wipe so much, right?
To be fair, it's still a struggle if you get in dailies with a bunch of sprouts.
I mean, it's just about all of like how new you are to it,
right? Because I think I was tanking, so clearly not knowing the tank mechanics, that's why we were losing, right?
Yeah, because there's quite a few tank swaps in that fight.
Yeah, like if you don't have over leveled gear that reach the max eye level, you can't do it without. Oh man.
Yeah, it's really interesting, and yeah, every fight, whenever you just don't have that knowledge, it can be difficult to go through. It's like that old saying, just knowledge is power. And just, man, that fight was so good. It's really the definitive ARR moment.
Right, like I can put a number of times meeting people on 14 and seeing like, hey, what really got you in, what hooked you? Because obviously, you know, you got the subscription, you got to pay for the game up front, you got to buy the new DLC, like that's a lot.
Yeah.
It is.
And then, you know, Realm Reborn, it's notorious for not having that kind of gripping scenario for everybody, right? It's not a good cup everybody in their hands and like, okay, we're gonna keep going.
It's the beginning of an MMO, let's be real.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it's obviously like a great talking point is like, when did you actually get invested in the story? Like, when did you actually care about these characters? And almost like 7 times out of 10, it's when I went through the Shiva fight and got to experience what this game really means and seeing those ice weapons drop. Like, that is a lot for some people. It's like, what made them stay? What justified that subscription after so long of Realm Reborn or post Realm Reborn?
Yeah, and it's a really good, like, it's so justified and it's earned every way with the Shiva fight to be that thing for so many people, just because of the fact that, like, I almost feel like it's the first major fight where, not even just by cutscenes or anything, because you had the Praetorium that does all of its huge story through cutscenes and stuff, but it's the first fight, in my opinion, that feels like it's not so much like a video game. Like it is, but like it doesn't feel like video game boss does video game boss things. Instead, it does some really cool like visual storytelling and mechanic storytelling through its encounter, and it actually feels like you're playing out this actual battle in the story. Like there isn't like a disconnect from the story that's being told prior to it and after it, and then the fight itself being its own like contained thing.
You know, I never thought about it like that, but like when you're saying it, I kind of like, oh man, like after Realm Reborn, you are the Warrior of Light, right? That's when you get the Monkier, right?
Yeah.
And like, you know, you fought these primals and you've taken care of these new primals that showed up, but Shiva is like the actual first challenge for not only you as the person playing the game, but for your character. Like there's like that big setup before about how like, oh, we don't know who's gonna summon this primal, but it's like the most powerful primal we know of. Like it's affecting the world. And so when you get to that point and you're fighting and like you're wiping and doing all this stuff, and then you realize, oh, I just finished it, and like your warrior of light is like, man, I just finished that. Jesus.
Yeah.
That was a hard fight.
It is, and it is a tough fight to go through, and it's like you said, the story that just leads into it, and like it feels so justified. And then it even like it's like the summoning of primals at that point was so normal between how we saw the first three, and even I can't remember, but I want to say Leviathan also was before Shiva.
Yes, it was.
Yeah,
okay.
you were.
Shiva was the last primal you fought in Realm Reborn.
She's the big bad.
I thought so. But Shiva's summoning is drastically different from the other four primals that you fought up to that point too.
Right.
Because we've never seen anyone ever do a primal summoning through themselves as the conduit. Like, it's always been that, you know, through the aether consumption with the crystals and everything, they just created the entity. But instead, Ysael made it herself as the primal.
Yeah, which raised a lot of questions at the time about what constitutes the summoning of a primal, like, actually, and what different methods can be used.
Yeah, because it's no longer just, like, clear cut. This is how it's done. Now we have, like, different versions of it happening. And not only, speaking on Ysael, like, it also really introduces her, and then is an amazing, like, transition from ARR story to Heavensward story. As everything with Ysael and Shiva both are major players and good, like, establishment of the Dragon Song War that follows up in the next expansion.
Right. It was such a good setup.
Yeah, they actually do a lot to make the transition to Heavensward very seamless, actually.
Yeah, it was completely earned every step of the way. There was no just like abruptness, just like this is the story now. No, like they set up everything that they gave you hints and stuff of how the Dragon Song War is kind of taking place in the background. And then even from the small side quest that you did with Harshafont in Realm Reborn, where you're going out through the heretics and everything.
Right.
That was also setting up to like get you ready for how Ishgard is, and then all of like the Realm Reborn's story finishes and then pushes you into the fray of this story.
Yeah, it's kind of, I feel like Shiva's kind of the tipping point from you going from just a typical kind of adventure, going on a typical adventure story, to, okay, now this is our story, like this is some shit's going down.
It's definitely the first like duty of a warrior of light kind of thing. That it has that kind of air to it. Because obviously, you know, we stopped the Garlean invasion in Realm Reborn. Right? That's very significant. We already united the alliances like firmly. And then, you know, we were kind of like mulling about like, well, what's up now? What are we doing? And then, you know, Shiva fight. Leviathan, like, it was so good. It really showed you are a different entity now than you were before the end of Realm Reborn.
Yeah, and Shiva was. I don't want to. I'm going to say it. Shiva was definitely the tip of the iceberg. That was the game changer.
Oh my god! Boom!
End the recording. Stop the recording now.
Stop.
She was the icebreaker into the big Dragon Song War.
Oh my god!
I tried thinking of a third one. I couldn't.
I can't.
That one kind of.
But Shiva, not only as a primal and as a fight, was really captivating, but then you even go into like Saint Shiva in her story personally is also really interesting.
The person behind the primal.
Yeah. And it's almost like I kind of wish sometimes that when these primals got summoned, that these entities weren't completely based off of the perceptions and wishes of the summoner. And we actually got to see more of the individual personality of some of these primals, right? Like their memories and history.
That's what we kind of got with Shiva, though.
We got Ysael's interpretation of Shiva.
And then the realization of what actually is Saint Shiva.
Yeah.
And then how those conflicts in Ysael.
Yeah, and that was really well told. And I just wish I got to see, like, Shiva herself's memories and how she felt all those years ago with Race Volgar.
Right.
Because I think there's a really good story to be told there because of the fact that we know because of Shiva and who she was and what she meant to Race Volgar, that's why he never partook in the war. She was the reason why he always stayed his hand instead of fighting and killing humans too.
Right.
I would have liked to see that relationship. I kind of wish we did get to see a little bit more, but I am really happy with what we got though.
I mean, hey, who knows? We may even end up getting to see that. Who knows?
I would love to just see the day-to-day life between Race Volgar and Shiva.
You know, that's the thing. Anything could be happening in an MMO, you know?
Just everything goes down.
Everybody talks about how Endwalker is like the end of this story, right? Like, who knows? Maybe we're going to be sent to the past.
We're going to go to the past and we're just going to see like Race Volgar sitting on the couch. Shiva walks in. She's like, Race Volgar, what are you doing? My parents are coming over.
All right, maybe not that. Maybe not that.
You don't want to see like their parent, like the in-laws coming in, an in-law story for Race Volgar and Shiva.
God.
They're just doing like normal like relationship shit. You got the anniversary dinner coming up. Race Volgar sitting at the little tiny table meant for humans, trying to have his little steak dinner with Shiva.
This like Christmas jumper.
Christmas jumper. Oh, it took me so long to realize that. I don't know why, but like when you said jumper, my brain just like went to the movie, and I was just like, what?
Alright, I was like, did I say something wrong? Like...
No, my brain just like took way too long to process. Anyway. Yeah, I would love to see a Race Volgar size like Christmas sweater.
I'd love to see him just wear like a regular human sweater.
My God, where?
It's just like on his little, it's like on his little claw.
It's like super. It's like one of those like little like monster guys you put in your finger.
Yeah, you just dress up your little claws.
The finger puppet.
Oh my God, that'd be so good. But I really am super curious though, just like what Shiva was able to do, or like what she taught really, to like really like quell Race Volgar's anger after his sister's death.
Right.
Yeah, that's something they really didn't dive into very much, did they?
No.
Honestly, it's a misconnection. I think understanding why primals have become primals is like something as the
never
Warrior
really
of
been
Light
explained.
should know.
Who knows? We might get way even more explanations on the nature of primals in and of themselves in
Like,
Endwalker.
what are the legends that became the legends?
Yeah, that was an interesting thing too. Going on like on a tangent with primals, but like the whole Warrior of Light like trial, like that whole concept was crazy.
Yeah. And like that concept was really interesting because but like it goes into the, like you said, the story about the primals. A lot of the times it is just stories told over time, and then just from the obsession of these stories, and then you lavish them with aether from crystals. That's how you get the primal.
Because if you think about it, like if they're going based off the story route, that's why each time we see a different iteration of them. they're not always the same, like design and concept. You can see them especially with like Shiva, like actually. But Ifrit, like in Garuda, like Titan, like they have completely different versions throughout the different expansions. Like, just that concept alone of them, it's based off the legends and like kind of like word of mouth and like even like kind of where you're from. Like, you get a different version of a primal, which is really interesting actually.
Yeah, because it's not even just based on regions and their stories that they tell, but could even like from what we've seen in some of the patch content in Shadowbringers, it's also just like what you're currently feeling at the moment of said summoning.
Yeah.
That can also shape the mentality of the primal and what their goal is. So just like it really just like adds so many like variables that goes into these summonings.
That's why I'm saying it's a missed opportunity. We never got to meet actually who these primals are, these incomplete versions of the legends.
Yeah.
Quoting Race Velgar about Shiva, like, you are an incomplete version of yourself.
Yeah.
Man. I really wish that like I understand. Like I'm not trying to like sweep away his trauma and his depression. I kind of wish he did talk a little bit more about Shiva and then even back then, like what happened when humanity was allied with dragons. But I mean, I understand completely why he would not at all talk about any of that stuff with anyone else.
Right. I mean, it's also like imagine a moment in your life that is essentially a blink of an eye, right? Having such a profound effect on you. Like, that shit is hard to talk about.
Yeah, because
he's old as fuck.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. They're immortal.
And he will live way past us.
Yeah, they're immortal.
Way more wisdom than us.
Mm-hmm. As immortal beings, yeah, Shiva's life was nothing more than a blink in time for him.
Mm-hmm.
And yet she still meant that much to him. It's so interesting, and I really wish we got a little bit more exploration on that. Maybe just like a little small side story. I would love to see that. I would be really interested into Shiva and Hraesvelgar's actual relationship between each other.
Man, speaking of like Shiva's relationship, that's something that's really interesting to see. That's like a trend with like just Final Fantasy Shivas in general. Because there is even like a little like sub story with like Shiva and Ifrit in Final Fantasy 15 of them being like lovers.
Yeah, I really love that exploration for those two and like the actual lore for those two primals. I mean, they're not primals; they're gods in 15. They're actual
Dolans.
deities, yeah. But I really would like to see some exploration on that in 14. But even then, I still like them as is. I still think they're really cool, and they are really fun to fight. And even what they represent as like last ditch efforts and like just the representation of the people they summon is a really cool storytelling method as well by itself.
No, yeah, I totally agree with you. Like, I think the way that they handled like kind of, even though we do get repeat like bosses technically speaking, the way they handle it is actually really interesting in the concept that they introduced of different iterations of the same primal. It kind of spices things up when you see the same boss for 3 times.
Yeah, back in ARR, yeah.
I honestly didn't pick up on that, and I just thought, man, these primals just have a very forgetful memory on the people that murder them.
Yeah, it's because they actually just don't have those memories. They don't exist.
Right, and it gets expanded upon that in Heavens, where it's like, yeah, they're not actually themselves. They don't know anything that's happening because it is merely the legend.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, what would Ifrit do in this situation? Fucking WWID. What would Ifrit do?
What would Ifrit do? All the malls just printing out their T-shirts just to wear around.
God. Then you get like freaking Stormblood that throws a wrench into the mix with the Four Lords quest.
Oh yeah, that's a whole different thing though.
Yeah, I guess you wouldn't really consider them primals.
They're not. Yeah, they're their own thing entirely. They're
They're
auspices.
lords.
They're actually alive, so
They're actually minions.
the minions are still alive.
Oh man. I think another thing that's we should also bring up when talking about Shiva is her design in this game is really good.
Yeah, definitely.
She looks really good in this game.
I think comparatively to all the other iterations of Shiva throughout the like Final Fantasy series, I think 14's is probably up there as like top 3 at least.
You didn't like Giant Lady 15 Shiva?
Okay, maybe she's just higher than 14 Shiva. You don't know. You don't know me.
Right. I know for a fact, as someone who's only played, count them, 2 Final Fantasy games.
3. Well, no.
2 Final Fantasy. I don't count 15 because I didn't get to try out the new version of 15. I played it when it first came out.
Alright, Mr. Semantics.
I think
14 Shiva is pretty good.
yeah, her design's really good, especially the icicle crown that she wears.
Yeah,
Looks
very
super
identifiable.
Cool. Yeah, super cool.
Looks really hard to keep on your head. Not gonna lie.
Is it like a tiara? Do you like put it through your hair? But your hair is frozen.
I always thought it was like connected, like it's like something you wrap your hair around.
She just
as
throws
well
it
as
onto
a
her
crown.
head.
I mean, who knows?
Bringing it back to the fight, though, I will say that the music probably was the thing that hooked me onto that fight. Sorry,
Yeah.
there's a fucking motorcycle going by. I'm gonna keep talking through it. You guys are gonna suffer through this with us. And Adrian, don't edit that out. It's still going. It's still going.
It's okay.
Oh, they're making a U-turn.
But yeah, no, the music's amazing in the Shiva fight.
That is absolutely different from everything else.
Yeah, it was very much. Yeah, the style change was so crazy to me when I first heard it. It's like this is a Final Fantasy game.
Like even before the scene change, where it's just the piano, you're like, oh man, this is really good. Like this bopping.
Somber sounds.
I feel like I'm in a winter wonderland right now, and I'm going to die.
Yeah, Footsteps in the Snow is really good. And I had a similar feeling when I heard Oblivion start playing and the stage transition, the fight when I watched this fight for the first time and got me hooked.
Bro, when you hear the snap.
Yeah, the snap into the rock music, it was so crazy to me because I didn't know an MMO could do something that cool.
Mm-hmm.
Because like my only perception of MMOs at that point were just like,
stand here.
Yeah, stand here. Like I saw some of the WoW stuff and. You know, the music, like, I don't know, I music also helps me really get into the mood of stuff. And so, like, hearing that comparison to, like, some of, well, the only one fight I saw in WoW, their music is just, it's okay. Like, it doesn't get me hooked completely.
It's very WoW.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It fits the game. Maybe we're just JRPG fans. I don't know.
I definitely am. I've literally played every Final Fantasy.
Okay,
Except for 11.
Well,
I haven't done 11.
I mean, it's getting a new expansion.
Now's my time.
All right, we're changing Free Company chats, moving off to Final Fantasy 11.
We're moving off to Vanadil. Goodbye, Eosia.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
So long. Farewell.
Take us out,
To
Sid.
you, my friend. Oh, anyways.
Take us out, Sid.
Got out of the box.
Excelsior.
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 That's just... Shiva did so much for the game for me.
I think it's just for everybody. I'm going to be honest. I'm going to be bold and say it. Everybody had something to get from Shiva, you know?
Yeah. Her fight...
I think it was... No, go ahead.
Her fight is the definitive, like, 14 experience. Like, she is the perfect taste into everything they do afterwards.
As a former Savage Raider, I gotta say that the experience I feel when I play Savage content is how I felt in Shiva when I was a Sprout that way. You know?
Yeah, I felt like that was really like it was a breakthrough fight in a lot of ways.
I
but
felt
feel like
smart.
Yeah, I feel like it was one of the first fights where you actually like use your kit.
I
like,
felt
in the
ready.
job that you were in.
I felt smart. I felt ready to go again, and then Extreme came out, and I cried.
Yeah, but we got
so
through it,
hard.
man.
Extreme
God,
Shiva.
it was so hard.
Yeah, Extreme Shiva is so difficult.
Then I got a mount.
Yeah, I got that mount too. That was like one of the first mounts I got.
Yeah, it's the little horses. They look so good.
Yeah,
I was
and
like-
it plays the rock music.
This
Yeah.
is legit. I'm gonna go through every Extreme fight now, and I sure fucking did.
Yeah.
I really love that about mounts in this game too. Is the fact that they play the music of what they're associated with is so good.
Yeah. Is it okay? I'm gonna quick confessional. I didn't know that it was in English for the longest time.
Are you talking about Oblivion?
Yeah, I didn't know it
Is
was
it?
in English.
It's pretty obviously English.
I thought it was
literally-
Japanese.
I literally sing the lyrics whenever we do the fight.
It took me an embarrassingly long time to realize it was in English.
Well, no wonder you didn't sing along with me when we were going through the fight.
You didn't hear me just mumble?
I no, honestly, I was too hyped.
Da, 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 da.
No regret.
Anyways, I looked up a lyrics video and I fucking blew my mind.
Oh my god.
Although, to be fair, Soken does it a lot, where it's like I don't realize it's in English.
Oh, Titan.
Titan, yeah. That one was the one recently we were talking about.
I legit thought they were going.
Goddamn.
I legit thought they were headbanging and go.
Dude.
It's like, wow, they're really committing to this.
Oh, I love Titan's fight so much.
We gotta talk about Titan at some point. Maybe not his own episode, but we're gonna talk about him at some point.
Oh man, I can't wait. I love that fight, dude. It's so much fun.
It's the Sprout Killer.
It really is.
Yeah. My favorite part of that fight, though, whenever we get in dailies, is when we go to the phase transition and everyone freezes and the fucking machinist is doing like a backflip. He's just stuck
If
in
you're
the
not-
air.
If you're not doing an emote right before the freeze, then what's the
You're not living. You're not living.
You gotta do squats. You gotta,
gotta do
whatever you need.
I love doing the squats or like the push-ups or even the sit-ups emotes. Any of the ones that like require a character to like do the workouts, because just then when you get chosen to be stepped on, like it looks so silly and it's fucking funny, dude.
I always like doing the Yole dance when I remember to do it. It's just your arm stuck up and then she steps on your head.
All right, everybody, that's all the time we have. I hope you enjoyed this podcast. Thank you for listening. And if you want to keep up with us, we have a Twitter, pre-company chat. It's in the description below. And also support our editor. This podcast would not be here without him. You can find him at kofi.com/pandasol.